but because it was such a close school, you were kind of like comfortable to a certain degree around everyone, right? And all your teachers and stuff like that. So it made it a lot easier to be like, hey, do you mind like coming in over the weekend and helping me study for this math test that we have? Different things like that.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
I feel like the independence that you kind of get, because I feel like the notion that people get in terms of like boarding school is that it's super strict, but it also gives you a lot of room for just like independence, because you at the end of the day have to regulate your studying and all these other responsibilities that while you're still in high school normally would fall onto your parents. The fact that it's boarding and the fact that it's quite small. Like I knew by name and like I could sit down and talk to anyone at my school, not because I was friends with everyone, but because it was such a close school, you were kind of like comfortable to a certain degree around everyone, right? And all your teachers and stuff like that. So it made it a lot easier to be like, hey, do you mind like coming in over the weekend and helping me study for this math test that we have? Different things like that. So you really got to take advantage of your like relationships with people and help them. In 3 words, diverse, intense, structured. So structured in terms of like we had like a lot of different little hierarchies in terms of like amongst the students, and then like within the classroom, and then within like your life outside of the classroom. So like grades were pretty much important to everyone that I knew like at like my school. So kind of like getting top marks is something that will set you aside in a positive way, like amongst your peers. And then but then the same way we had kind of like all this structure, your teachers were not kind of like these like isolated people. Like you actually got to know your teachers as people. So because we see our teachers outside of a school setting versus like you go to a day school and then you leave the class and you don't think about that teacher ever again, right? And then diverse being that there were so many different people from so many different countries at my school, at both schools that I went to, but like especially at Brookes, we had like a lot of different people from around the world, and they kind of like force you to take advantage of that because it's pretty easy to like stay with someone that speaks your own like native tongue. Like it's very common to see like English speakers clump together and Koreans clump together and Spanish speakers clump together because like it's very easy to just like connect with someone just because of how easy it is to communicate with them. But then you actually step outside of that bubble and you can like meet like the other couple hundred people that go to your school. And then intense in terms of like it's a lot to get used to really fast, not in like the negative connotation of intense, but it's just really different. Like you go from being able to relax and get away with certain things because they're like your parents to being like these are the rules that apply to everyone and you kind of don't really get to bend them too much. I feel like resilience, because a lot of people only come to boarding school for 1 year just to try it out, kind of like to go on an exchange. But for the lifers, it's definitely like a super hard thing because it can really suck like meeting someone for a year and being super close to them and then they leave. And then also like dealing with all these things, like first birthday away from home, missing out like things at home, like first time you get sick away from home. They're all like really tough things, but then at the end of the day, like you get to do a lot of really cool things because you're at like school. So it's kind of like a balance. So it takes a certain kind of person to be able to thrive. Open-mindedness is definitely something that I think can be like reflected in like inside the classroom and outside, because people coming from different parts of the world, they have just like different customs, different values, and different expectations, which is something that we learned in school, but then we actually got to see face to face by like having to interact with different people. How relaxed everyone is in terms of like, you kind of like, it's very weird how like it kind of becomes like a bubble in terms of like, because we would leave campus of course, but for the most part most of our time was spent around all of these familiar faces. So even if you're not super close friends with someone, you find yourself sitting and eating with them, or just like chilling in the same space, sharing the same space, but like kind of like not interacting. So it's kind of like a weird dynamic between people. Like it's kind of like a really weird sense of community. So yeah, that's definitely one thing that I think would take some getting used to. Well, in terms of like my academics, it's really prepared me. Like my first year compared to other people in at U of T that didn't do the IB, I definitely feel like I was pretty prepared coming in. In terms of like my personal skills, like I feel like I have pretty developed social skills, and I live alone now, so I'm pretty okay in terms of like living alone in a big city, because I just kind of like have had to take care of myself for so long, but like in kind of like a secure environment that now I can do it like out in the real world. The food, the food. Yeah, that was something that got like the most complaints, because sometimes it would be quite hit or miss in terms of like either like delicious to the point that there were no leftovers, or like everyone was just kind of like it's Uber Eats kind of night. That was like the one thing that I feel like people complained about the most, was just the food. I miss it quite a lot, and I find myself doing a lot of things that like to me were like quite normal, but like my friends will be like, why are you doing that? Like I remember the first night I moved into dorms, like at U of T, I asked my RA, oh, what time's my curfew? And she's like, you don't have a curfew. Like you can just come in whenever you want. And I was like, what? This is crazy. And then I was like out with my friends and I was like, guys, we don't have a curfew. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, but like really, like we can come back like at 4 o'clock in the morning and it's fine. They're like, yeah. I was like, this is nice. This is cool. This is sick. Yeah. The emphasis it puts on education, just how it builds character. Even if you don't end up liking it, it is an experience that you get a lot to take away from, and the quality of friends that you can make, because you kind of have to really force through a lot of different things and learn how to communicate better to actually make friends, but not only just make them, but keep them as friends. Nothing is ever really permanent. A lot of people get nervous because you're like, oh, well, I'm transferring schools. What if I don't like it? If you don't like it, my parents, every year they told me, it's like, if you don't like it, you don't have to come back. Like, you don't. but it would be like, oh my God, I can't wait. Like winter break is over in 3 days and I get to see all my friends and I get to redecorate my dorm and blah, 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 blah. Like it's a choice that you make, but it's also like a continuous choice. It's not like you have to sign away your life to commit. And also, at least with my school, since it was so new, there was a lot of room for growth. Like the difference between my grade 11 year and my grade 12 year, huge difference, because we moved campus from Shawnigan Lake to Victoria, BC. So it was a brand new campus, and with a brand new campus came like a brand new different set of rules. And because the school was so small, student feedback did have a certain like level of like power. Like as students are like what we thought did matter. Obviously it's not like an overnight change because there's like a lot of like rules and a lot of people have to approve of different things, but like yeah, have fun, don't take it so seriously. Yeah, because high school's supposed to be fun, so like just like yeah, have fun. It's not the end of the world if something happens. Yeah, so just have fun.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.